Buenos dias, amigos. Welcome back to the Combat Sports Media YouTube channel. It's a beautiful morning here in Old San Juan. And, we're taking a nice morning stroll. And while we're at it, we're also going to be talking some boxing. Kill two birds with one stone. Now, before I go any further, I would just like to point out that, see these cobblestones right here? These cobblestones were actually brought, I'm sorry about that. These cobblestones were actually brought over here by the conquistadors in the 15 and 1600s. They put it on the bottom of their ships from what I hear, for like a balancing. I don't know much about ships, but they basically had these cobblestones laid out at the bottom of the ships for balancing reasons or whatever. So when they built the city over here, they used those same cobblestones for the streets. And so basically what I'm saying is these cobblestones were brought here by the conquistadors in the 15 and 1600s. These were on those ships. These cobblestones are the very same bricks that were on those ships from back then. So when you're in Old San Juan, you're literally walking through history. You're walking on history. Anyway, we got Virgil Ortiz versus Egis Kauvaliauskas in a exciting welterweight matchup. Now, Virgil Ortiz is one of the more exciting prospects out in the welterweight division. He's gathering a bigger and bigger fan base with each and every fight. He's having people talk about him more and more with each and every fight. He has wins over guys like Antonio Orozco, Mauricio Herrera, who I always had a lot of respect for. His last fight was against I forget his name. But anyway, look, the point is Maurice Hooker, I'm sorry. His last fight was against Maurice Hooker. And basically, Virgil is like 17 or 18-0, I believe. He's about 23 years of age, about 5'10" in height. Used to compete at the 140-pound division, but he's been a welterweight for a year or two now. And he had a decent amateur background as well, even though he didn't really go to the Olympics or anything like that. He has a loss against Ryan Garcia in the amateurs. His style is an extremely aggressive one. He is always coming forward, throwing punches and bunches, and basically trying to bomb the other guy out. That's what he does. He's going in there to bomb you out. He's going in there to step up to you, throw a lot of punches, and hard ones at that. See, because a lot of times when fighters throw a lot of punches, when you got a volume puncher, typically they're not one-punch KO artists, or they're not hard punchers. That's why they have a high activity to make up for their lack of power, such as Leo Santa Cruz. But Virgil Ortiz has a decent power, along with a high activity rate, which is a great combination and a rare one at that. So he's not a defensive whiz. You could kind of consider him a brawler, but he also brings, he's a pressure fighter as well. So he's kind of like a hybrid of a brawler slash pressure fighter. He's definitely not a cutie, definitely not a counter puncher, and definitely not a defensive wizard. He's not necessarily the fastest guy when it comes to hand speed. And yeah, so he's not the fastest guy when it comes to hand speed, but he's extremely tough, high work rate, high energy style. That's another thing. He kind of makes his conditioning into a weapon as well, because he's along with trying to bomb you out, he also makes sure that he's making his opponent uncomfortable when it comes to the actual pace of the fight. He's always carrying a fast and high work rate. Now, Kauvaliauskas is about 10 years older with a very similar style. I think he might be a little shorter than Ortiz. He doesn't seem like, and he's extremely physically strong. He trains out of the old RGBA gym that Robert Garcia used to run in Oxnard, the original one. When Robert left the gym, he sold it to Egis, who is Kauvaliauskas' trainer, and ever since then it's been under the control of Klimas. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because when Robert Garcia was running that gym, Kauvaliauskas was training there, even at the time. And so what I'm trying to say is Robert Garcia is very familiar with him. And Robert Garcia is obviously the trainer of Virgil Ortiz. So Robert Garcia is extremely familiar with him. He actually used to work with him and train him too. And again, a very similar style to Virgil Ortiz. Very, very similar. The only difference is he's 10 years older. He's more experienced. He did fight for the world title against the best fighter in the world, in my opinion, which is Terence Crawford. And one thing about Crawford is, even though I say he's the best in the world, that doesn't mean I think his resume is all that. But anyway, he did fight against Terence Crawford, and that's his only loss. He only has that one loss, and it's against Terence Crawford, and he gave Crawford a decent fight until he got knocked out, especially in the beginning. He did manage to hit and nail Crawford with some hard shots in that fight, and he made Crawford work for it. He made him work for the knockout. Tough guy, extremely strong guy, and very experienced. This is an excellent step up or next step for Virgil Ortiz at this point in his career. This is exactly the kind of guy I think he should prove himself against before he fights one of the elite fighters at welterweight, such as Crawford, or even a guy like Keith Thurman or something like that. Now let's talk about the prediction. Now, initially, this may be a difficult fight to predict for a lot of the fans out there because of the similarities in the styles and just the different nuances. Like, one has advantage in age, but the other one has an advantage in experience. Both are very well schooled. At one point in time, they were trained by the same guy, in Robert Garcia. But I have to go with Virgil Ortiz. And the reason why I'm going with Virgil Ortiz is because of the fact that he's 10 years younger. I have to assume that he's hungrier. Virgil has never fought for a world title. He's trying to get to a world title. Kauvaliauskas already fought for one. And I'm not saying he doesn't want to fight for one again. However, I can assume that his hunger isn't quite the same as Ortiz's. And more importantly, these are both guys that fight in a high intensity style. They both expend a lot of energy both in their fights and in their training camps. Look at this guy. He's trying to turn. So anyway, at this point, Virgil Ortiz is the one that's going to be able to go harder in his training camp. He recovers faster. He's going to be able to push himself more. Because don't forget, when you fight like them, that's a very important thing. Conditioning is important for every fighter, but it's even more important for a fighter like these two. And when you're a fighter like this and you're facing someone that's 10 years younger than you and has that same style, and that's already a big obstacle, because that conditioning is important, very, very important for both of you, because it's part of your style. You guys have weaponized your conditioning, but one guy is going to be able to work harder in training camp, and he's also going to have more energy naturally in the actual fight, not just because of the work that he put in the training camp, but because of just age. You know, 25-year-olds, 23-year-olds, 22-year-olds are a lot more hyper and energetic than 32-year-old, 33-year-old men, you know? So I think that is a nuance and a detail that will play a factor in Ortiz's favor in this fight. So based on those two reasons, I have to give the edge to Ortiz. Now, do I think he's going to stop Kauvaliauskas? No. I think he's going to win a decision, and I don't even think it's going to be a landslide. I think it's going to be a close fight. It may even be the kind of fight where it's a little controversial, in the sense that, I mean, not controversial, but I wouldn't be surprised if after the fight, people are going to say that, you know, I expected Virgil to do better, or I expected more from him. It's going to be a rough and ugly fight, an exciting fight for the fans. It's not going to be a virtuoso performance by either fighter, I don't think. And they're both it's going to be an ugly, scrappy fight for both fighters. They're going to both have to walk through hell in this fight. And I believe that Ortiz will get a unanimous or split decision. Well, there you have it, folks. It's a pleasure always talking boxing with you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day or evening. And check back with me soon, because I'm going to be pumping out more videos. Thank you very much. And please remember, like and subscribe. Thank you.